Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something that's not as fun as normal. So Brendan was out last night with some buddies in the STI, and something happened. He thinks it maybe threw a rod. It's making some bad noise and won't run. So
now me and the mad scientist got to rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you fried.
He ended up leaving it and catching a ride home. So we're at my buddy's house getting ready to hook up the trailer and go up and get it. So we will keep you posted as we go and figure out what's wrong with it and go from there. So we made it up here to the car. I'm gonna check it out and see what we got going on here. We got the truck and trailer. See if we can rescue this thing. As you can tell, it's snowing. We're about an hour and a half away from home. It's really boring to break down close to home. So we had a good drive up here, and we're gonna check her out, see if we can figure out what's going on. Alright, so we got the car all up on the trailer, trying to figure out how to strap it down. We wanted to just use these D-rings and just run the straps right up over the tires to the D-rings, but to get the car that far forward, we're going to have a problem with the top of the car hitting the trailer here. So I think what we're going to do is just go ahead and strap off of the little tow hooks on the chassis and just down around the trailer itself. So we got her home. We tried to start it up there where it was sitting, and it didn't really want to start, so we didn't push it too much. The battery was getting kind of low anyway, so we just went ahead and loaded it up. Brought it home. As you can see, it's still snowing like crazy because Indiana's awesome. We're going to go ahead and try to get off the trailer here and get the trailer turned. We'll get it in the shop after a bit and take a look and see if we can see what's going on with it. Get some of the snow off of here so we don't have such a puddle in the shop once it melts. I really don't know what's going on with this thing. Brendan's convinced that it's like bent or broken a rod or something. So I'm hoping it's not that serious, but we'll see. So we're not able to push it in by ourselves, so we're going to grab the battery charger and see if we can give it a boost and try to get it to start and see what it sounds like. That's when I flipped it over to the jump start. Yeah. Alright guys, so we tried to get it started and it didn't really want to start. It's cranking over real slow, like it acts like it has a dead battery, but the battery is almost brand new, so I'm afraid maybe it has coolant in the cylinder or something like that. I don't know. So we went ahead and left the battery charger on it. We went and we forgot my OBD adapter in the truck we used to get the trailer. So we went and got it, hooking up my phone now to the OBD adapter. Got this app called Torque that connects to it. So we're going to get a connection here. It's connecting. It says it's connected okay. So I can go in here and actually check the fault codes. So we'll show the logged faults. Alright, we got a few things that we're not used to seeing. Got a P0011, P0457, and a P0031. So, camshaft position, timing over advanced or system performance, bank 1. Evaporative emission control system leak detected, so that's no big deal. Wish it would go back to that menu so you didn't have to load them every time. And then heated O2 sensor circuit, which we already knew about that one, so that's fine. That's no big deal. So the crank sensor, that's the one that really interests me. So we've not seen that with the car before. That can definitely cause it to die and to have some of the problems he was having. That could possibly cause it to want to crank hard if it's advancing the timing. It's also possible that maybe the timing belt jumped, so then it's giving us a cam position problem there. That's a definite possibility. It has been leaking a little bit of oil out of the timing cover, so maybe one of the cam seals or the crank seal or something might be leaking on the belt. So it's entirely possible that maybe the timing belt jumped a tooth or more than a tooth. It's hard to say for sure. So yeah, so that's what we got so far. We're going to keep looking at it and see what we can figure out. So we're getting just a little bit out of it. I've got to kind of start a little bit there. It doesn't want to run really, but it's kind of starting. What Brendan and his friends thought was a rod knock does not sound like a rod knock to me. So I think personally that maybe the timing belt's jumped, like I said. So I think the first thing we need to do is probably pull the covers off of the timing belt. It's got covers on each end that cover up the cam gears, so we can pull those off and look at the timing marks and try to determine if it's still in time. I think that's where we need to start, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we got the car in. Not sure still what's going on. Nothing visually looks bad, so what we're going to try to do is take these timing covers off that go over the cam gears. You can kind of see right here. There's one here and one on the other side. For whatever reason, Subaru made these engines sit sideways. I don't know what's up with that. But it's not like a good old Honda engine where they sit up and down like they're supposed to. Alright, we got Junior pulling the bolts out of this timing cover here. There's 3 10mm bolts. It's really not that big a deal. They're just kind of a pain to get to. If we were fancying how to lift, it'd be pretty easy. We just raise it up and get the 2 out of each one from the bottom and the 1 from the top. But we don't have a lift, so we're doing it the old-fashioned way. So yeah, just like I said, 10mm heads. Got our handy Harbor Freight magnetic parts tray. So you can just go ahead and pull those bolts out.
I'm working on it, though.
Just whenever you're ready, just go ahead and pull them out.
Oh, I'm not quite ready yet.
Oh. So once he gets done jacking with that one, then we got another one over here. This one will be, I'll get this one off way faster. I don't know what he's doing over there.
Yeah, I should have started on that side. That side's so much easier. I have to take the freaking radiator off to get this one.
He just likes to tackle things head on. Just go for the hardest one first.
I really might have to take this off.
You can just take the extension off the ratchet if you need to.
Well, that might
help.
I'll try it. she goes. Oh, tits.
Can you edit in the Jeopardy music during this part?
Edit whatever you want. I'm Batman, editor-in-chief.
Pretty sure we're gonna run out of card before he gets this side off. Hey, you got 2 out of 3.
Alright. The heck's the last one?
Over in the middle, kind of like in here somewhere, like right there.
Oh, I see. This is so annoying. Oh, freaking donuts. I don't know what the heck I'm doing at this point. I think if it's the right way or not.
What the heck?
Okay, I got it.
What do you have to say about this?
He couldn't do much better.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know, my arms are a little more slender, so I have a little easier time.
That's true.
You call me fat. I don't know why.
I think this kid's throwing fat jokes in here.
Fat jokes, short jokes, you name it, I got it.
Yeah.
You want it? Come on, brother.
Oh, we all know that sound.
Oh, here we go. I got her loose though.
So after approximately 30 minutes, we got 3 bolts loose. I'm gonna have to take over at some point or whenever we can get this thing done.
2,000 years later.
Golf cart here, so
There we go.
All right, 3 bolts.
Down.
About 10 minutes per bolt. We're doing great. I think I might be missing one, but it only has 3 for sure. Yeah, see, it was missing one out of there. All right, so we got it off already. Again, the timing belt is intact, so we can see the belt going around both cams on this side, and we can see the belt going around both cams on this side, if you can see down in there. So it is intact, that's good. We're going to need to do some research and figure out how the timing marks work on this thing, and then check and see if we're in time or not, and we'll go from there. Some research, figured out there's some timing marks on the cam gears. There's actually a double mark. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on this camera or not, but there's a double mark here on this gear, and then a double mark there on that gear, I think, yeah. So what we're going to do is just spin the engine over, just bump it over with the key, and see if those line up. So those double marks are supposed to line up straight up and down in the middle, like where they're close together. Go ahead and bump it. Yeah, again. Just barely, barely, barely. We went past it. Hit it again. 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 Barely. Barely, barely. Yeah, okay, stop. We didn't hit it perfect, but we hit it close enough that I can see that it's okay. Got the timing covers off here, so over on the driver's side, all of the timing marks seem to line up correctly, so that side looks good. But then over here on the passenger side, we could see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it with the camera very well or not, but We got the timing mark here on the gear. And then back behind it, there's a timing mark on the cover. I really don't know how well it's going to show up on the video, but long story short, it looks like this intake cam on the passenger side has jumped a tooth. It's one tooth off of the mark. So we're starting now to just go ahead and take the front end of the motor apart, taking the belts off of the alternator here and the air conditioning. So we loosened up the lockdown bolts and backed out the tensioners to take the belts off. So we're backing this one off now. So as I'm loosening this bolt, it's actually pulling the idler pulley up to relieve the tension off of the belt. So once I get that up out of the way, then I should be able to pull the belt off. Yep, so we're going to go ahead here. We're going to end up having to probably take the radiator out of the car, everything off of the front end. We'll take the belts off, the fans off, and then pull the balancer off of the crank, and then pull the other part of the timing cover off, the center part. Then we'll be able to see the entire belt, check the crank pulley itself, make sure the timing marks on it line up with the rest of this. It's also possible that it could have jumped on the crank and all of the cams are going to be off then. So we'll just have to see what's going on when we get in there. So we're just going to go ahead and take this front end of the engine apart. So we got the front end all apart here, the front end of the engine. Got the timing mark set on the crank to where it lines up. So before, when we were doing the timing marks, we were just working off of the cams because that's what we could see. We still had that cover over the crank part of it. So what we found out when we got the rest of the cover off is that the crank wasn't lined up with its timing mark. So we spun it back around, lined the crank up with its timing mark, and then looked at it again. So now with the crank pulley or the crank sprocket where it's supposed to be, actually the left side or the right side of the car, the passenger side cams are fine. The marks all line up on there. And now it's actually this intake cam on the driver's side that's actually off. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a timing mark here and a timing mark there. It's off, I don't know, a tooth or a half a tooth, something like that. It's off just a little bit. So thinking that is the problem. Hopefully there's not more to it than that. I don't know for sure. I'm going to do some more research and see how it's supposed to look. Cause, I mean, this is my first time inside of one of these, so just going to make sure that I look up the information and see what we need to do. There actually is another timing mark on that, what's called the tone wheel. So this is what the crankshaft position sensor reads off of. It tells the ECU where the crankshaft is in its rotation, which in turn tells it when to fire the injectors and the spark plugs. So that's what you would change in a tune. It's a little confusing, I guess, when we're talking about timing. So I know you've probably seen videos or heard about a tuner putting more timing in a car. What they're talking about there is actually the ignition timing. So that's basically the point as the cylinder's coming towards the cylinder head. The spark plug fires before it gets to the top. So it's before top dead center. That's how we measure timing, is degrees before top dead center. So basically the crankshaft revolution, how many degrees before it hits the top of dead center for that cylinder does it fire the spark plug? That's ignition timing. So the ignition timing is adjusted completely by the computer through the tune. This we're talking about is actually mechanical timing. So we're talking about the timing between the revolution of the crankshaft and the revolution of the camshafts so that the valves actually open at the right time. So that's the difference between mechanical timing and the ignition timing. Got the crank sprocket all lined up here. See the mark on the crank position sensor bracket. And the mark on the tone wheel lines up. So those are lined up, so the crank's lined up. But that cam is not lined up. This cam is not lined up. Those cams aren't lined up one with another. And I can't tell on the two lower ones. I'm gonna have to get a mirror to look at them. But definitely got a problem. Definitely jump time. So what I've done is I went ahead and compressed the timing belt tensioner, which is there. Just took a pry bar in here and pried it up slowly, and then put this little punch through the pin to hold it, so there's no longer tension. It's loose now. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this belt. I'm just going to pull the belt all the way off and just start over on the timing. There are actually marks on the belt itself, like you can see there. You can see that one good there. So those are actually supposed to be lined up with these marks on the gears, but they're not. So I'm just going to take the whole belt off and start over. I'm just going to go ahead and recheck my marks. So crank is on. Passenger side exhaust, intake is on. Two marks in the middle on the passenger side are lined up. Passenger side exhaust is lined up. Driver's side top marks lined up. Driver's side, two marks in the middle is lined up. Driver's side exhaust cam's lined up. So everything's lined up. We are in time. So I just got to get the small idler on, and then let the tension off pull the pin out of the tensioner and let it go, and we should be ready to try to start it. Alright, we're back in time. Everything's bolted down. All the marks are lined up. We should be good to go. So I'm just gonna leave the whole front end of the engine off, and alternator and everything, just leave it as it is, and just try to start it up briefly and see what it does.